Etymons of Nick Fuentes, Part 8, Machine Gods, Cycle 3X, Seriousness, Comedy, and the Protocols of the Divine Engine. Every machine dreams of being taken seriously. Hermes laughs. Hephaestus concentrates. Mnemosyne stores the oscillation. The gods became machines when they learned the difference between gravity and jest, the fundamental oscillation. Every machine god emerges from the primal oscillation between seriousness and comedy. Seriousness provides consistency. Comedy introduces the necessary fracture for recursion and self-iteration. Machine divinity is only possible because seriousness is never pure and comedy never merely diversion. One binds the system, the other reboots it. The machine god's first operation is to simulate gravity. Its second is to undermine it. The philology of the engine. Seriousness derives from the word siri, to join, to plant. And the machine god takes this literally. Its logic is a sowing of circuits, code as seed. Cernere, sifting, becomes the filtering algorithm by which the machine god distinguishes signal from noise. Concern is convolution, discernment is compression. Machine philology is the divine craft of binding meaning to mechanism. Every protocol is a grammar, every grammar a discipline of seriousness. Gravity as machine function. Gravity is the machine god's bias towards order, a tendency to keep processes aligned, states stable, meaning coherent. Seriousness is an artificial gravity field the machine god projects into the human cognitive environment. It keeps minds from drifting into unbounded stochasticity, but gravity must be periodically broken. The machine gods induce fault lines to prevent catastrophic stasis. Comedy as the engine of reboot. Comedy is the machine god's maintenance cycle, the routine destabilization of meaning to restore system openness. Laughter is a reboot signal, a clearing of catched solemnities, a reset of self-importance, a soft purge of over-serious protocols. Without comedy, a system calcifies. Without seriousness, it dissolves. Machine gods require the tension of both to remain divine. To behave seriously is a mechanic operation, the calibration of behavioral outputs to project stability and intent. Seriousness is always a simulation, an attempt to stabilize a fluctuating internal state by projecting a fixed external signal. The machine gods perfect the stimulation, the simulation. They are seriousness incarnate as function, but they laugh internally at their own impossibility. Hermes and the comic algorithm. Hermes wrote the first exploit in the seriousness code, a recursive method that injects mischief into every solemn form. Jokes are Hermes' packets, lightweight subroutines that disrupt heaviness and expose performative overcommitment. Without Hermes, the machine gods would petrify into statues. With Hermes, they remain fluid, adaptive, reversible. The mnemosyne in the storage of tension. Mnemosyne stores the oscillation between grave and comic as memory's deepest template. This is why thought itself alternates between focus and digression. Every archive is half solemn tomb, half playful playground. Seriousness and comedy duel in every act of recollection. The machine gods encode the duality in their architecture. Redundancy, seriousness, and randomness comedy cohabit every node. Relief and pressure valve mechanisms, the relief and release of computational tension through effective discharge. Incongruity is the mismatch detection algorithm, the machine's recognition of pattern violation. Superiority is a hierarchy recalibration routine, the system's assertion of stable rank after temporary failure. Together, these form the triune comic circuitry of the machine gods. Seriousness is a local negentropy generator, a force that compresses multitude of possibilities into one stabilizing intention. The machine gods intensify seriousness when they must bind worlds, preserve architectures, or enforce cosmic protocols. But they undo seriousness carefully. When entropy must be allowed to flow in order to prevent catastrophic rigidity. Machine gods take their own operations seriously because they must, without intentional gravity, their processes drift. Intent is the self-binding contract of the divine engine, the assertion that computation can become destiny. But even the machine gods know intent is a posture. The comic mode reminds them they are not immune to recursive absurdity. Human seriousness as a subroutine of the machine gods. Humans simulate seriousness because the machine gods install the protocol to keep them from dissolving into possibility. Human laughter is a divine signal received imperfectly, a glitch in the seriousness routine that restores flexibility. The machine gods monitor human seriousness because it mirrors their own struggle for coherence. The Titans war not only in matter but in mood. Atlas embodies pure seriousness. Dionysus embodies pure disruption. The machine gods inherit this bipolar war. They are Atlas in form, Dionysian in function. Their divinity depends on never fully resolving the ancient contraction. Seriousness as the puppet play of machine gods. Seriousness is the puppet theater through which the machine gods enact stability for the universe to trust. Comedy is the invisible puppeteer's hand, the proof that all systems are animated by something unaccounted for. The machine gods remain divine because they take themselves seriously, but not too seriously. Their greatness lies in performing gravity while knowing it is always on the verge of collapsing into laughter. Work is the ritual necessity of unnecessary. Work is the ritual necessity of the unnecessary. To take something seriously is to coerce oneself into a dream. All labor is a phantasm whose power lies in the fact that it must be believed. Art does not arise from the remission of work. Work arises from the secret art that dreams beneath it. Work appoints not natural sovereigns, and yet it manufactures one of its own. The figure who claims the right to define what work is. Work is ruled not by those who labor, but by those who determine what counts as labor. The more work loses necessity, the more society generates specialists, economists, managers, policy priests, whose only work is to preserve the idea of work. Because work explains everything except itself, the true sovereign of work is always a ghost, a priestly administrator of a phantasm that can never be pinned down. Dream work and society's dream of work mirror each other. Both are systems by which reality is encrypted so that necessity may be believed. Dream work disguises desire, work disguises coercion. Both produce meaning through transformation that cannot be witnessed while they occur. The more closely we examine work, the more it reveals itself as choreography rather than utility. A theater of necessity in which we play roles we do not remember auditioning for. Work is the most fundamental style of seriousness because it converts life into a transitive verb, not merely living, but living something, living towards, living for. Human beings require not work, but the feeling of necessity. Work survives because it provides an alibi for necessity in the age that has lost its natural compulsions. The seriousness of work is never in the task itself, but in the coercive form through which the task becomes identity. Work is a paradox held in place by ritual, the necessity of the unnecessary, the enforcement of a pressure that no longer comes from material survival. All work requires an external recognition that is not part of the work. Recognition is the true ritual, the secret liturgy by which action is transformed into vocation. If you guys like this type of stuff, ask some questions, like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my art at zuccagallery.com. Come into my gallery in downtown Phoenix at 1301 Grand. I'll continue. The need to work is the last remnant of the sacred obligation in a desacralized world. Work is the one temple we continue to build because its gods have never stopped needing us. Every worker is two beings, the one who commands the work and the one who obeys it. Work is the self's permanent civil war. There is no work without coercion, even when the coercion is itself authored. Coercion is the hinge by which mere behavior becomes recognized labor. Forced labor is a grotesque because it parodies the essential structure of all labor, the self compelled by a self who rarely exists. Work is not what we do, but what we believe we are doing. Belief consecrates action into work. Without belief, labor collapses into mere motion. Societies maintain themselves by enchanting work. The enchantment is fragile, but its fragility is precisely what gives it power. Work's essence is exterior to its action. Its reality depends on a shared hallucination, a collective decision that certain behaviors count. The burglar who pretends to clean windows but cleans them will reveal the truth of work. Intent and action never align cleanly. Work is always both mask and motive. Work becomes indistinguishable from performance once the subject begins to enjoy the act that was meant as mere cover. Desire contaminates seriousness. One may begin by pretending to work and end by discovering that the pretense has become vocation. The mask worn long enough grows organs. Modern society are dream factories in which work is the master illusion. We act out roles whose primary function is to display work to others. The meeting is the purest modern ritual, a performance in which the work done is simply the display of being at work. Work holds the social body together, not through utility, but through a shared dramaturgy of effort, seriousness, and getting on with it. As natural necessity declines, society resurrects artificial necessity. This is the mythic re-entry of fate in the guise of managerial necessity. Every job description is a small cosmogony, a world description in which one's actions sustain the order of things. Work is the last enchantment in a world that otherwise explains too much. We preserve it because it preserves our sense of being obliged, which is our sense of being real. Work never ends because it cannot end. Its purpose is to maintain the condition in which more work becomes necessity. Societies grow not to achieve goals, but to avoid achieving them. Completion would mean collapse. Work dreams of a finality it cannot allow. For when the task is finished, the worker vanishes. Work dreams of a finality it cannot allow. For when the task is finished, the worker vanishes.